Mayday! Mayday! We've lost both engines. We're running out of fuel.
Fuel is completely gone. We have to make an emergency landing. Right now.
This is Ethiopian 961. We are ditching in the ocean. Repeat, we are ditching in the ocean. Only 20 seconds left.
Pull up! Pull up now! We're going down! Impact is imminent!
On November 23, 1996, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961 was just a routine flight heading from Addis Ababa to Nairobi, then on to Lagos, and finally Abidjan. Everything seemed normal, but just moments later, 3 young passengers pushed the flight toward disaster. These hijackers, who had recently escaped from prison, were mentally unstable and wanted to flee to Australia, believing the plane could take them straight there. They had no real plan, just an empty soda can they claimed was a bomb. Soon, their demands threw the flight crew into confusion and panic. They forced their way into the cockpit, overpowered Captain Lul Abate, and demanded he divert the plane to Australia, a demand far beyond the aircraft's fuel range. Tension rose inside the cabin. The crew stayed silent out of fear, and the passengers had no idea what was happening. Captain Abate now faced the toughest decision of his life: follow the orders of these delusional hijackers and head toward an impossible destination, or resist them despite their threats. And during this chaos, he discovered something that could change the entire situation. The hijackers' biggest misconception was that a Boeing 767 could reach Australia without refueling, an assumption that was not only wrong, but one that put everyone's life at risk. Captain Lul Abate tried calmly, again and again, to explain that the plane only had enough fuel to get from Addis Ababa to Nairobi. But the hijackers refused to listen. So Abate made a clever move. He started pretending to follow their orders, acting like he was heading toward Australia. But in reality, he was just stalling. He diverted the aircraft along the coastal route, began sending coded distress messages to air traffic control, and at times even flew the plane in circles to burn fuel, all in the hope of making a rescue possible. But with every passing minute, the hijackers grew more aggressive. When Abate checked the fuel gauges and realized it was now physically impossible to reach any land destination, he considered a choice no pilot ever wants to make: ditching the plane in the ocean. This was the moment when the fate of more than 170 people in the sky was about to be handed over to the cold and unforgiving waters of the Indian Ocean. But the real test was only just beginning. When Captain Abate decided that an emergency landing in the ocean was the only option left, the crew immediately began executing what is considered the most terrifying procedure in any flight manual: the ditching protocol. The cabin crew tried to keep passengers calm, secured their seatbelts, and explained the brace position. But all of this was happening in complete chaos. The hijackers were still roaming the cabin, yelling and disrupting any attempt at organized communication. Then, the Boeing 767 began its descent. Passengers looked out the windows and saw nothing but deep blue ocean below. A chilling silence filled the air, the kind that only comes right before disaster strikes. People on the beach and nearby fishing boats couldn't believe their eyes as they saw a commercial jet flying dangerously low over the water. Then came a massive impact, as if the ocean had grabbed the plane and pulled it in. The aircraft's tail hit first, the fuselage broke apart, and within seconds, water started flooding the cabin. People screamed, seats tore loose and flew through the air, and the true fight for survival began. But despite the devastation of this crash, the fact that some people made it out alive remains one of the greatest mysteries to this day. As soon as the aircraft crashed into the ocean, passengers and crew were faced with a scene straight out of a nightmare. Water was rapidly flooding the cabin. Life jackets had inflated, and despite their own injuries, some people were busy helping others. The cabin crew, especially one female flight attendant, ignored her wounds and guided several passengers to the emergency exits. A few young passengers lifted those who were frozen in fear or unable to move and pushed them into the ocean just so they could have a chance to survive. In that moment, no one cared about race, language, or identity. The only thing that mattered was saving each other's lives. At the same time, people on the beach and nearby fishing boat operators saw everything and, without a second thought, rushed their boats toward the crash site. Official rescue teams hadn't even arrived yet, but these ordinary people became the first responders. Some threw life jackets, others pulled drowning passengers into their boats. This was the moment when humanity showed its true face. But even in all this, every story has a dark side. 125 people lost their lives in this crash, but what turns this tragedy into a miracle is that over 50 people survived, despite the intensity of the ditching. And that was only possible because of one reason: Captain Luella Bates' decision, a move that went beyond the aviation rulebook, but was necessary to save human lives. But now, another question rises. What happened to those hijackers? And where did they go after this disaster? When the plane crashed into the ocean, the hijackers became part of the same disaster. They didn't follow any safety instructions. No seatbelts, no brace position. When the aircraft hit the water, the strongest impact occurred in the very sections where they were sitting. The crash was so intense that all 3 hijackers died instantly. Their plan had completely failed, and the route they thought would take them to Australia had turned into a journey straight to death. Captain Luella Bates later confirmed that he had warned the hijackers about the lack of fuel, but they refused to listen. Their ignorance and stubbornness didn't just cost them their own lives. It took the lives of 125 innocent people. Their end became a terrifying example of how greed and ignorance together can lead to complete destruction. Captain Luella Bates' name is now more than just that of a pilot. He's a legend. A man who didn't break under pressure and made a decision that was not only unthinkable at the time, but still stuns aviation experts today. He thought beyond the rulebook, put human lives above all else, and took the step of ditching a Boeing 767 into the ocean, something no commercial pilot had ever done successfully before. His actions have forever etched his name into the history of aviation. After this crash, aviation sectors around the world were forced to wake up. Pilot training programs began including more detailed and realistic water landing scenarios. Cabin crews were taught new emergency communication protocols, and fresh SOPs were created to deal with hijacking situations. All of this happened because one flight, thought to be routine, became a major lesson for the world. It proved that every incident, no matter how painful, can become a valuable teaching tool. But even today, people still ask one question: if someone else had been in Captain Bates' place, would they have shown the same courage? Would another pilot have made such an impossible choice, or simply followed the textbook instructions? And the biggest question of all, when a human is trapped in an impossible situation, is it just training that saves the day? Or is it that hidden strength of the human spirit, the kind that no manual can ever teach? If you liked this story, make sure to hit the like button. Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more forgotten truths the world has left behind. And now, the next mystery is about to unfold. The story of a teenager so intelligent, even NASA, the DOD, FBI, couldn't stop his hacks. Jonathan James isn't just remembered as a hacker, but as a warning etched into history. Click here to watch the next video.